Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of SUGTalks, the official podcast of the UK and Ireland SAP User Group. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guests, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges, and opportunities facing SAP users today. If you've not already done so, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. Today we're bringing you part 2 of our Meet the Board series, and I'm delighted to be joined by Fiona Warburg, SAP Centre of Excellence Manager at Welsh Water, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the Welsh version of that, Fiona, sorry. Brian Froome, Information Security Manager at Tata Steel Europe, and Tim Guest, Director at Zoidale Limited. So welcome to all of you. And through this discussion today, we aim to let our members know a little bit more about you. And to start, I'm just thinking about us heading towards a more positive future following Prime Minister's announcement at the beginning of last week. And obviously the follow-up elements from all the devolved nations around us. And the vaccine rollout in the UK is going very well. And I'm really hopeful that the cricket season can begin in early summer and allow me to go and watch my team, Middlesbrough Cricket Club, enjoying the sound of Leather on Willow with the accompanying taste of a pint. Outside of seeing and doing more with our loved ones, etc., what are you looking forward to once we're out of lockdown? So I'll start with you, Fiona, if I may.
Do you know, this one's actually quite easy for me because I keep on talking about it with all my friends and people at work, and it's go on a holiday abroad. I want to find some sunshine and some warmth. That will be my first thing.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit from the first lockdown. It's a lot more simple now. What I'm looking forward to now is a decent haircut, and then once I've had the haircut, it's going to a pub to drink a cold pint and enjoy my new haircut.
Enjoying your new haircut over a pint, I like that one. And Brian.
Yes, well, mine's quite similar to yours, Craig, except the shape of the ball is different. I can't wait to go and retake my seat in the stands of my local rugby region, the Ospreys, and watch them, put on a good show on the pitch. And of course, there will be the odd, unlike football, we are allowed to take drinks into our seats. So my drink will be in my hand.
Oh, very good. Well, I'm just glad you didn't mention Wales rugby and Six Nations kind of games, to be honest with you. But that's great. So, okay, we're getting our haircut. We're going to watch some rugby and cricket on holiday in the sunshine. I do like the sound of all that. So thank you very much for those insights. And just now moving matters closer to yourselves and in particular the user group. And if I may start with you again, Fiona, how did you first get involved with the user group?
Well, for me, it goes back to 2006. So, and it was at an SAP UK Utilities conference, and there was this little stand, UKISUG, with yourself, Craig, and a board member at the time, Mike Dean.
Listen.
So I'm taking a number of people back, possibly, but. I remember I'd been around SAP for about 4 years at that point, and I thought it was a black hole. It just sucked you in and never let you out, and I didn't know it was I didn't have a clue what was going on. And I remember coming up to your stand, finding out what the user group offered, and thought, this is a way out of my black hole, and signed up for a corporate membership at that point. That's where it all began.
That certainly is going back in time, and I remember those events when we had a little stand back in 2006. Amazing. And Tim, and your story.
Yeah, okay. It was the summer of 2013. I remember it well. I was midway through an SAP Business One implementation. I'd stuck a blog post out on the SAP, what used to be the SAP Developers Network, SAP Community Forum. And Martin Lewis, who was the current SAP Business One SIG chair at the time, kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said you should come along to one of the SIGs. I went along in November, really enjoyed it, got to meet a load of other people, and the rest is history.
Thank you. And Brian?
With me, it was when I first joined Tata Steel, because Tata Steel, I believe, had been a member of the user group before my joining them, because they were a very heavy SAP user. And it was, as in those days, it was my previous role to what I'm holding now in Tata Steel, where I was a dreaded IT auditor. So it was a good way of understanding what the audit and controls would be, was by being a member of and utilising the Tata Steel's membership of the user group.
I think so. Quite interesting mix there, I suppose. We've got you, Brian, joined a company who was already a member and got involved that way. Fiona meeting us at a conference, and Tim being contacted by our SIG chair and who came to be a board member, Martin Lewis, and obviously Mike Dean, who you mentioned, Fiona, a previous board member of the user group as well. Quite nice, I think, the linkages, the referrals, the community aspect of getting involved there. And Brian, so how did your engagement progress?
Well, it sort of started from there, in that I attended a couple of their audit control and security special interest group meetings, and got chatting to the co-chairs that were there at that time. I believe Chris Haig was one of them, and I believe his co-chair at the time was leaving. And I think after a couple of discussions with them, Chris sort of said, you fancy doing a bit more work with the user group? You fancy coming on board and being a co-chair? And that's where I sort of started, and from there my sort of it sort of progressed from there. So so it was by going to the SIGs, being an active member in the special interest groups, and then wanting to do more.
Thank you. And Fiona?
Yeah, for me, probably a similar start of attending SIGs and then the conference. But I do remember one area that probably spent more time talking to you, Craig, was the joy that was enterprise support. So when that came out, yeah, many conversations with yourself and getting my IT director involved, sort of realising the power there of the user group. But then for me, it went on sort of 5 years ago. I was working at EDF at the time, and that's also when at the conference they announced nominations for the board. And I actually, my colleague at EDF in France was actually running the French user group and part of
Jean-Marie.
Yeah, so had a little chat with Jean-Marie, shouldn't I? And actually, yeah, got a lot of insight even from, across the waters about what it might involve, and put myself forward.
Lovely. I know. Well, I know Jean-Marie quite well, and Jean-Marie is president of USF, the French user group, and also the chair of SUGTalks, the SAP User Group Executive Network, and appeared on our first podcast when we talked about SUGTalks. And Tim, how did you progress?
Yeah, my engagement progressed quite quickly from conference to Martin Lewis, the SIG chair, got me to then speak at a SIG. I think fairly soon after that we agreed that I would become the co-chair of the Business One stream. Martin then dropped out after a long tenure, and I was running the SIGs and organising the SIGs. And then Martin then suggested that I potentially be groomed, if that's the right phrase, to join the board. And here I am, so kind of following in Martin's footsteps, if you like.
Oh, well, perhaps if you want to follow him further, you'll have to get yourself a boat and be sailing up in the lakes.
Yeah.
But it's quite nice to see, to be honest. What I'm getting the picture of there is kind of joining the user group, engaging in the different aspects. We talked about special interest groups, we talked about conferences, we talked about the influencing, going back to the enterprise support and what we did there, and then moving on to volunteering, be it through being a SIG chair first and then onto the board, or then directly putting yourself forward to the board. And I I really do like that cycle of coming, really, first of all, I suppose it's consuming, taking of information at the events, etc. And then you mentioned as well, Tim, speaking and then giving back through speaking, through volunteering and engaging. Is that the cycle you feel you've seen and felt yourselves?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and I definitely do feel that. And one of the personal things I've taken from the user group is experience and confidence in public speaking. I really used to hate speaking, and I was borderline had a phobia standing in front of people speaking. It used to scare me to death. The user group provided training through Red Voice, which I went on, and just taking every opportunity to stand up in front of people and present. And now I enjoy doing it.
That's fantastic, and you talked there about the user group bringing the speaking, but also helping you personally to gain that value and go forward. So, Brian, is there anything value you've received personally from your involvement in the user group?
I think the key thing for me, I've gained personally from the user group, is the networking. Being able to meet with some of our peers, especially through the SIG there. Classic example was we always thought that our segregation of duties was poor until we sort of saw the results in other organisations of similar size we get, and we thought, do you know what, we'd be pretty good. So it was that making the contacts, getting that networking, and just using the user group to say, well, yeah, we must be doing something right, and that on there. But that's, and of course it's grown by stature in speaking as well. I've always have been one to sort of not shy away when it comes to talking, and some people say sometimes it's awkward to shut me up sometimes once I get going. So it's one of those good things. It's been an enjoyable experience with the networking and and meeting with the peers and that.
Yeah, interesting point there about not understanding actually how good you are doing things until you benchmark them against others, and I think it also always brings me to that other point as well, that there's no stupid questions. When you're at a meeting and you think, oh, I want to ask that, but God, is that a stupid question? But no, it isn't, because there's bound to be at least another person in the room thinking the same thing. And sometimes we look at ourselves more negatively than we actually are. And Fiona, the value that you've seen personally.
Again, personally, and it goes back to the same thing of networking, but on a slightly different scale of just having that confidence. You're in a room with in the days when we could be in a room, you just you have to break out. So that it's just approaching people to talk to them and ask them. There'd be that at the SIGs or at the conference. No, I wouldn't say I'm shy and retiring, but there is an element of just, you don't know the person, but there might be something useful or something in common. You've definitely got something in common. You're in a room talking about SAP, but yeah, being able to go and just chat. But I'd say one thing for me, and I say this to anybody that comes new into SAP, is you can never know it all. You just have to know who to ask. That's it. And that's what I think the user group really has helped me with.
Hi, we hope you're enjoying this podcast. If you're not a member and you would like to make your job easier while ensuring your company gets the best value from its investment in SAP, join our community of over 7,000 SAP customers. For more information and a special offer for our podcast listeners, please visit sapusers.org/pod or email support@sapusers.org.
Oh, excellent. And okay, so we were talking a little bit there about helping you. What about your organisation, Fiona? What value has your organisation got from your involvement in the user group?
Go back. The first biggie for us was the negotiations with enterprise support. So that was a direct bottom line impact. They reduced the percentage, or they slowed the ramp up. So that was a definite bottom line cost impact. But on top of that, you're getting information out, honest views on SAP strategy. So you think you've got the best thing since sliced bread, but actually you go and talk to other people, you realize there are better things out there, how to best use the tools you've got. So you're making the most of the actual technology you've invested in. And the other thing for me, which you'll never get from SAP, is some of those white papers, particularly around the indirect licensing, hearing it as it is rather than as SAP want you to hear it.
Thank you. Yeah, but one of the key things, isn't it, is that when we look at these, and this is where I feel, and I look to our board, which is everything we talk about within the board, and when we're delivering these things, it's always focused on, okay, how is it valuable to members? How do we, is it adding value to our membership with the user group? And I think that's a crucial aspect. And Tim, your organisation you've been involved in?
Yeah, well, I mean, as an organisation, I feel we got a lot of benefits from it, particularly in the early days when we were kind of still, the first year, 18 months of using SAP Business One, just basically tips from other users. And you think you're working to best practice, you're doing everything your partner's telling you, but you're not maybe getting the desired result. You talk to someone else and they give you some sort of tips and workarounds. Further down the line, it helped us with selecting a third-party solution we were looking for. The partner offered us one which we thought was good, and then it was going to one of the SIGs and looking at another piece of software and going, wow, that does what we want, and it's cheaper. So it's just the exposure to other technologies, really.
Mm-hmm. Oh, excellent. Good. It's good to see that, actually, that engagement with third parties and others to help you make that more informed decision. And Brian?
Yeah, as I said, I think with us it was understanding that we're not alone. The issues we are facing are the same issues as other people have got there. It was a case of as well that we found solutions that we could share with other members, and likewise other members found solutions that could share with us. It's from our organizational point of view, it's knowing that collectively we can find solutions to the problems by asking the network and saying, look, have you come across this before? And if so, what did you do with it? And I think that's the benefit we've gained from being members. And that, to me, has been an easy sell every year when we come to renew. We understand the benefit we get from the user group, and it's just a straightforward talk with the powers that be, and we get it renewed. So, yeah.
Oh,
Good value for money.
It's that, yeah, good. And you know what? I'm kind of hearing that give and take again. Going back to the earlier kind of cycle. It's that community effort that you're engaging in, by the sound of it, where you're giving and taking, and that balance throughout. Would you agree with that?
Oh yes, almost certainly. It's that I think with us in Tata Steel, could being such a big organisation, that we've even had in the past two memberships held because of wanting to send not only IT people but business people to some of the SIGs. In particular, I know our HR and payroll took out their own membership as well. So there's that must go a long way to show us as a user group that we must be doing something right if an organisation is taking out multiple memberships in order to get more people into the events. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I mean, and from me, really, thank you to all of you for being volunteers, for being more board members, and really, giving your time to the user group on a voluntary basis to ensure that everything we're doing is adding value from members and driving us forward to increase that value and relevance. And just looking now on kind of perhaps, I suppose, happy memories or elements that really stand out to you. And if I may come to you, Fiona, and just what has been the highlight of your time with the user group to date?
Oh, there's been quite a few, but I think one that really stands out to me was 'cause I actually help out on the subcommittee for the conference. So that gave me an insight into the effort that goes into organising one of these massive events. And there was a occasion, I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly which conference it was, maybe 3 years ago. We were stood looking out over all the stands and all the people milling around. And it was just, yeah, like you say, it's the proud to be part of that. It was, yeah, it gives you a little warm feeling, doesn't it? I mean,
It,
you must have experienced that. Goodness knows how many times. Organised lots of conferences, but yeah.
It never gets old, to be honest. Every year, I just look at what the team delivers, and it's a fantastic achievement. And obviously, with the pandemic we're living through, it was cancelled last year. But we've got bright skies, and hopefully, come the end of November this year, we're here again. And able to deliver an even better conference for everybody going forward. So yeah, fingers crossed for that one. But we're certainly planning to deliver a safe and valuable conference in November. Tim, your highlight.
Yeah, there've been a lot of highlights really. I've enjoyed it, particularly the social aspect of it as well. I think if I was to pick one highlight, I think it was 2015. I engaged with a chap called Rince Tamsma, who is he's now SVP and Managing Director of SAP Netherlands. At the time, Rince was in charge of the EMEA small business portfolio. Part of my mission was to get as much exposure for SAP Business One as I could, and being a SIG chair gave me the kind of platform to engage with someone like Rince, talk to him about the user group, and talk to you, and we actually managed to get him a slot on the main stage just after one of the keynotes.
Yes, certainly. Quite interesting thing. I was across at the Dutch User Group conference for NSG a couple of years ago, and it was the year Rince had taken over as managing director, and I was at an executive dinner, and Rince was there, and he remembered the event, and he came over, and we were having a chat, and I think it was probably one of the first major events that he actually spoke at. And yeah, he remembered it fondly, and yeah, I do too, Tim. Excellent. And Brian.
Yeah, I think as both Tim and Fiona have said, there are a number of sort of highlights that on there, but the one that sort of I think sticks in my mind is standing in for Paul and also Philip in Sugen when with the, as Fiona mentioned it, the digital access adoption program, being part of the Sugen members that went and actually physically sat with SAP and challenged them on what they were doing around digital access, and that on there, and getting them to change the way they perceive their audits, from moving away from a sales selling element to being more a value added element for the customer. And I think that to me that was one of my big highlights is that being part of the team that worked with them on that, and and getting SAP to sort of change their mindset.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. And that engagement, and I like, the pride that you talked about, Fiona, as well, and obviously engaging with executives within SAP from a perspective of influencing, from showcasing them, and also engaging and building relationships. Really like that. And we're coming towards the end now, and what I would just like to hear from each one of you, if I may, is just one top tip on why anybody listening, if they're not already engaging with the user group or even volunteering with the user group, why should they engage with the user group? So I'm going to start with you, Brian.
Well, for me, it's quite straightforward, Craig. It's collectively challenge SAP. As being a member of the user group, we are collectively together with Sugen, we challenge SAP and help them become more customer centric as opposed to sales driven. So that's my top tip: is be part of this collective power to get SAP to sit up and take notice.
Thank you, Brian. Tim?
Yeah, I would just say it's community. I can only speak for small business owners and directors, but it can feel quite isolated. It's kind of your software partner. But being part of the SAP user group, you're part of a wider community. You get a peer of other business owners, directors and general managers you can network with, drink beer with, become friends with, and really does help in that respect.
Yeah, back to that, you were not alone comment from earlier. And finally, Fiona.
Yeah, and mine's probably more about, the sort of a personal one, but for each and every individual, because I say, having been around SAP for 19 years, it doesn't stand still. It's always evolving. If what you want to do is keep up to date without having to spend hours, months going on courses, this is a good way to keep yourself relevant. That's what I say.
Thank you very much. And quite interestingly, we have another podcast we're recording to look at how to keep up to date with that ever evolving and changing landscape of SAP solutions. So that would be an interesting one, and I'm sure, like you say, the user group will crop up on that. But look, thank you all very, very much for being involved, and thank you for your time and insights and engagement in this. I hope it wasn't too onerous for you. And for the listeners, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable to you. And please, do look at engaging more with the user group, even if you're already engaged with us. And if you'd like further information, please visit our website at www.sapusers.org or follow us on any of the main social media platforms. So until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and keep washing your hands.